Welcome to the 45th edition of Women's Wrestling Weekly, the show. I am Kyle Klingman, joined by Scott Beck, also joined by national champion Reese Larramendy. We're going to break down the 2025 World Championships. Some of the toughest weights might be world weights, which is interesting. A lot of times you look at the Olympic weights and they might be tougher, but I think this World Championships has a different flavor that way. This is still Japan's to win, even though they have some of their reserves, quote, reserves. And as we dive into all of the participants, we looked at them top to bottom. We saw the credentials. Winning a medal is insanely hard to do. Scott, as you look at this going into the World Championships, what's your takeaways?
Yeah, I'd say, Kyle, to your point, I think, all the weights have talent and they're all pretty deep. And, they don't just hand out medals for showing up. It's going to be very challenging to win medals. Japan definitely is, the favorite on paper for sure, even though they have a couple of newer faces and younger athletes. They also have some experience, and their younger ones are very accoladed. And, I think, it's the first Worlds of a new quad, and there's some turnover. India has a younger team where some of the athletes from the junior worlds are going to be on this team. As I said, Japan has some young ones, and so does the United States. We have some new faces in the first World Championship. So it'll be interesting. We'll go weight by weight, but there's a lot of talent here, and there's some, newer faces that we'll have to get used to seeing.
Just to add on to Scott, I completely agree. Of course, Japan's the favorite, especially in the lower weights. That's just where they've always been tough. I mean, they've been tough across the board. But we also have a lot of newer faces, like you said, and I think we also need to pay attention to a lot of these maybe dark horses, if you will, from these other countries. Some that spark up during the World Championships. A lot of these countries that don't participate in maybe even championships, European championships, or so on, or the ranking series that come on to World Championships and they're firing. So I'm really excited to just preview a lot of these, and I think I'm very confident in our U.S. team. But of course, we're gonna have to take down Japan like we always do, and I think it's gonna be a good World Championships, like you said, and I'm excited to get into some of these weight classes.
50 kilograms, the lightest weight class, has been owned by Japan since 2019. Last time Japan didn't win the world at 50 kilograms was 2019. Sarah Hildebrand, of course, won the Olympics in 2024. It will be a fresh face for Japan. Noe Yui Sasaki, Ramina Yoshimoto will be there. However, Oksana Livak is the top seed. And as we talk about how difficult it is, she's in a lot of medal matches, but she only has one world medal coming into this World Championships. Will we see a fresh face? I think it's going to be Yoshimoto. Scott, what do you think about 50 kilos?
Yeah, I mean, just broadly speaking, so we know the seeds, which again, the seeds are not based on like handicapping winners. It's a combination, to get the ranking points, you have to have placed, the qualification things. So the World Championships is the number one, and then the Continentals and the ranking series. So in many ways, you can have an athlete that actually did not go to the World Championships at that weight the previous year. They may have changed weights, or was up a weight and then went down, and then or just decided not to show up at the ranking series or the Continentals, and then just showed up. So it's seeding. It's seeding is weird. It's not based on predictability. So in this case, you'll have like the number 8 seed is Yoshimoto from Japan. Levat's right now is the number 1. I also think they have these quote seeds, but if somebody doesn't show up, I think they just move everybody up. If that athlete does not compete and the country, changes the athlete, I don't know what the limit when they can do that. But in this case, Levac is the one, Yoshimoto, who's very solid. She's a world champion. Japan's solid 4 or 5 deep at 50 with like capable, world champion / placers or age group world champs. I like, to be honest with you, the number 2 seed is Demirhan from Turkey, who's very experienced, has a world bronze medal, has been around for a long time. But, I certainly wouldn't predict her necessarily take second in the weight class. She just won a ranking series. She's tough. She beat the Indian athlete who had beaten Jimenez. Jimenez kind of had a frustrating kind of match, lost 3-0. But in this case, I like where Jimenez is situated. She's the number 7. Demirhan from Turkey's the number 2, but I think Audrey can go with her if she wrestles her match. So it's a pretty good slotting. And then, North Korea, is always going to be the wild card in many of these weights. They're going to be unseeded or we don't know them. But North Korea, at this weight class is not phenomenal. So she doesn't really have much, senior Asian bronze. So it's not like she's, necessarily a hammer. UWW athletes are not, great. They're relatively inexperienced. So this weight is actually, I'm going to say it's relatively thin relative, to where it's been in the past. And I think if Audrey wrestles, she's in a good spot. If she wrestles well, I think she can medal. I mean, I'm not handing her a medal. Obviously, she's very young. In the ranking series, she took a loss to India, but that athlete's not wrestling. It was a different one, Ankush from India, who we don't really know all that much about. So, I like Audrey's location, and I think this is a good tournament and a good spot for her to make her stage on the world level, senior world level.
Yeah, 100% Scott. I think one person that is, as I've been looking at this bracket, has been Oksana. I mean, from Ukraine. And like you said, Kyle, she's been there. She's been in these medal matches. Hasn't always succeeded in these medal matches, but she's been there. I think she's been one of the most consistent wrestlers at this weight without winning per se. And these seedings always kind of mess me up, and maybe it's because the way UWW does them, and it's because they have to do them right on ranking tournament stuff. I mean, you see some Olympic champs come back and they're not seeded number one, and it's because of how it's done, right? A ranking tournament, and you have to be competing. That's how you tally up your points. That's how you earn your spot at the World Championships, And so the way that the UWW does that and does the seeding presents a lot of opportunities for high level first round matches, in these quarters. And so um, I agree with you, Scott. I think that this is a relatively open weight. I think that Audrey can do really well here. She has had some really tough matches at the senior level. I think Oksana is one of her toughest competition. Of course, Japan. And as we go through these lighter weights, we're going to obviously continue to talk about Japan because that's where they're strongest. They're strong across the board, but from years on years, their lightweights have just been almost unstoppable, and they're so, so deep. Whether it's their one, two, three, four, five, they can all either medal or win these world championships. So, I feel good about Audrey. I think that she just has to go in with a good mindset. And yeah, it's a tough weight class. Like I said, across all of these lighter weights, it's going to be tough. But Oksana is the one that I'm really circling for, and we're going to have to see how this all plays out, within the quarters, the semis, and all this. And we're going to have to get to these matches. But yeah, I think it's going to be good. I think, like you said, I feel confident that Audrey can medal here. I really do. She's young, and she's had some tough matches at the senior level, but I think she has good chances of bringing a medal home to the U.S. at this weight class.
Yeah, I mean the one issue, she has had some tougher matches. She's done very well at the age group level worlds. Sometimes size is a little bit of an issue. I mean, Audrey, if she gets a lace on anybody, obviously she can turn anybody. She's got great leg attacks. Sometimes she can't finish. And a lot of these athletes have been around a long time and are just very mature and physical. And that style and the size difference might be the one thing that she's going to have to overcome. But I like her spot, so we'll see.
And as we've always said, draws matter. We've seen situations where I think it actually happened to Audrey Jimenez where she didn't place at the Cadet Worlds, and you think, well, would she place at the Junior Worlds? And then she goes and gets to the finals. So you just don't know who you're going to pair up against. She just got a silver medal at the U20 World Championships, but if she gets in the right pairing, the right bracket, she can make a run at this. 53 kilograms, Yepes Guzman from Ecuador. She is a returning Olympic silver medalist. This is an open season for the field because Fujinami is not in the field. And if we've watched Guzman over the years, which we have, or Yepes, she has a blast double. She's as fast as anyone. Could this be her year? I like her in this. It'd be fun to see someone from a Pan-American country get in there and do well. We also have Felicity Taylor coming into her first senior world championship. Scott, as you look at this, can Guzman make that run and win the world championships?
It's going to be very difficult. This is an insanely deep weight class, and there's going to be random draws that really matter. So you have Guzman's the number one seed. She's very physical. She had been up 5-0 on Fujinami. Ultimately, Fujinami, I think, tacked her or pinned her, but she's really good. She's really physical and talented. The 4 seed, though, Antam from India, who's on her side, is very good as well. She's world medalist. She's physical. She's tough. They're on the same side. Then, the other side is a 2. You have the North Korean, who's an Olympic bronze medalist. So she's going to be tough. At the 7th seed, who's on the same side as the 2, Maria Prevaloraki, who after 15 tries won her first European championship. She's a 3-time world bronze medalist. And then we have the landmine. The landmine is one Haruna Akuno. I always use the old name Akuno, but it's actually Murayama now. She's married, but she's a three-time world champ. She won worlds in, I think, 17 and 18 or 18 and 19, and then a third one in 23. She did something pretty crazy where you had Mukiuka was the 55-kilogram world champ who decided to go down to 53 when Fujinami went up to 57. Akuna won the first of the two qualifying tournaments, which guaranteed her. She won the second one. She'd make the world team at 55. She decides to drop down. She takes out Mayu Makida, who's an Olympic champion, a world champion, and Kyuka, and makes the team. So very bold move on her part. Drops down. She's a cadet world champ, junior world champ, U23 world champ, three-time senior world champ. And she's won a bunch of the other ones. So she's going to be really tough, and she's going to be randomly drawn in. Then you have China's going to be randomly drawn in. Zhang from China, who is a world silver medalist. You have the Olympian from Cuba. So this is going to be a very, very difficult deep weight, and a lot's going to have to do with where you're drawn in. It's going to be a tough tournament. You know, Felicity's first world. She looked very good. She looked game on in Final X and took care of business. Both sides of the bracket are tough. It's going to be very hard to sneak in and medal in this. So she's going to have the tournament of her life and beat some really, really good credentialed people in a very deep weight class. And you have Malgren from Sweden's a U23 world champ, who's the 8th seed, I think. This is a very difficult weight class.
Yeah, I agree, Scott. This is super deep, and like you said, I mean, Japan, they're sending a three-time world champ, and also have to realize, like, even just to make this Japan team, it's similar to America, right? I believe our women's team is very deep, but same with Japan. Like, you're having to beat world champs, Olympic champs to even make this team. So we know that even if they're sending someone, maybe we've not seen that name before, they've probably beaten some pretty calibered wrestlers. And I might mention this a couple times, but I really want us to pay attention to North Korea. And we saw this even at the Olympics and at the last Asian championships, right? Nunoka Azaki at 62 kilograms got taken out by a North Korean wrestler, and Ringaichi at 68 kilograms in the Olympics, first round got taken out by a North Korean wrestler. There's not a lot of film on these girls. They're like these dark horses. You don't know about them. You don't know what to expect, and they just come out, and it's just like, who are these girls? And also on top of that, I mean, these girls are fighting for their lives. They're fighting for something more than just a gold medal. They're fighting for a better life, as are some of these other countries, and that's a different type of style of wrestling. There's no technique. You can't teach that type of stuff. These girls are coming out, and putting their lives and putting their well-beings on the line. And so I think North Korea is another country, and China, Ukraine, all these countries you have to take very seriously because they're fighting for something more than themselves. Not only their country but a better life for themselves. So this is a difficult bracket, and for Felicity, I think she needs to go back to what she did at Final X. She has to tie these girls up. If you let Japan and any of these other countries wrestle from space, it's going to be really difficult. You have to tie them up. You have to slow them down. You have to get to your ties that are going to create your offense. If you decide to wrestle them from space, decide to wrestle Japan from space, they're going to be on that low outside single in the matter of seconds.
Well, and what Akuno does, she beat Sarah in the World Finals and she beat Jakar in the World Finals. She's exceptionally patient. She likes to be in space and she'll wait you out. But when she attacks, she attacks. And you could be in a match and you think you're down 1-0, 2-0 in the first period. She's very patient, but when she goes, she goes. And yeah, and your point about North Korea, Kyle and I really talked about him a lot. I would almost put, they just have some gaps. They have a couple of athletes that don't have much accolades. They have gaps. It's hard, like you said, good point, to scout them because they normally only compete every so often at World Championships and then in the Asians sometimes, not always. And then they go with Japan. They just have a couple of gaps. And Kyle and I were talking about, they have a really solid team. There's 4 or 5 of them that are really good, that are going to be contending for medals, if not titles. And like you say, if everybody, I always say, yeah, people want it. People train hard here. There, it like literally is, in many cases, a life and death situation. It can be literally life changing. You become like royalty, you win an Olympic medal. And you may get sent to a camp to die if you don't. Depending on how you lose. Literally, there's a story of somebody in soccer, they once kicked an own goal, and I think they were executed or sent to a camp. So it's meaningful. to say the least.
55 kilograms. There are names that American fans should be familiar with, highlighted by Cristel Rodriguez, who is a two-time NAIA champion for Doan. She is a 2024 U20 world champion. Also should recognize Carla Godinez, who is a world bronze medalist, won two NCWWC championships for Simon Fraser, which is in Canada. And then Victoria Baez DeLone, who is going to wrestle for William Penn, was at King University. She is a national finalist. She is in the mix there too. 55 kilograms seems like open season for a lot of wrestlers right now, highlighted again by Japan. Scott, when you look at it and you look at the three names that we are familiar with, what's their path to getting a medal?
I think this weight's kind of interesting for a couple of reasons. North Korea again is a 6 seed, but won the gold at the Asian Championships. So you know that the athlete's going to be very solid. I think some of the names, obviously, Debian from France is a world bronze medalist last year. She's very solid, very tough. Kamenets from Ukraine had been out. She was very accoladed when she was young, was medaling in age group stuff, then got injured. Her neck got hurt. Coming back. Godinez from Canada is a world medalist. But to me, there's a couple of the 4 and the 5 seed I want to keep an eye on. Verbena looked really great when she pretty much dominated Rodriguez when they last wrestled, and she's very solid. This is her first senior worlds, but she's age group world medalist, U23 silver, and she looked really good. And then Kalamaloglu from Turkey. I'm sure I'm butchering the name, so I could just call her Elvira, I guess. But she dropped a weight. She was wrestling at 57, and she was very good. She wrestled, I believe. She's a U23 world medalist twice, I think. And she's just very solid. She's given people close matches at 57, progressed in some tournaments. So to me, she's kind of a wild card. Where Rodriguez is the 8, I'm okay with that because I think France is beatable, if Rodriguez wrestles her match. It's going to be tough. It's a very solid weight class. As I said, North Korea is good. And Ochita from Japan, she looked like she got hurt. She didn't medal it. She defaulted for bronze, correct, Kyle? I think at 57 in the Junior Worlds. She lost a heartbreaking match at the very end in the semis. Scored late to take the lead and then gave up last second point. But I just don't know, where she is physically. I'm assuming if they're sending her, she's dropping a weight, she's probably ready. But she's very good. But she's not like one of these unbeatable hammers, Mongolia's pretty tough, took 5th at the Olympics. In Anna from Romania is very experienced and been around. But, I think this is kind of a wide open weight class. I don't think this is going to go chalk. I don't think we're going to look at these seeds. I think you're going to, I think you're going to need to see somebody come through from those middle seeds. Ochita, who's unseeded from Japan, if she's healthy, can, do something. And China is pretty solid as well. So this is kind of more of an open weight class to me. And let's keep an eye on that 4, 5, and 6 seed, with Turkey, North Korea, and UWW.
Yeah, and on top of that, Scott, I got 2 points. I mean, like you said, with Christelle losing to Fabrina from UWW, like how is she going to overcome that, right? Because it's easy to go into a new tournament and have a lot of new competitors. Like how is Christelle going to handle that, knowing that she's lost, all these mental games that these wrestlers face? So that's one thing that we're gonna have to look out for Christelle if she does face this match. How does she go about that? But with the number 1 scene, Tatiana. She reminds me a lot of Everest, because she's so go, go, go. And when she's getting into these gritty positions and she wrestles through it and she's just going 100%, doesn't stop wrestling. And that's good for Christelle because Christelle knows how to handle that. She knows how to get through that. And Christelle is just so technical. And I think she's very mature for her age. I really think that this is going to be a tournament that Estelle gets to prove that she's not just best at her age, she's best in the world, regardless of age and all this other stuff. I've just looking at this bracket and watching Christelle in the past few tournaments, I feel very confident in her. And I think that this is going to be her star moment, her breakout performance, her breakout tournament. If she handles it the right way, if she's in the right mental space, physical space, I think she has the skill set to do it. Because, like you said, Scott, it is an open weight. This is open. This is up for grabs. This isn't, not to say that it's not that deep, but I think that there's a lot of potential here for Christelle to be able to show her best self, to be able to perform, have a breakthrough performance, and put her name at the top and moving forward. So I'm really, really excited for Christelle at this weight. I think that this is going to be one that it's up for grabs. And 100%, I believe that she's going to medal and very confident that she'll actually bring home the world gold in this weight class.
Wow, strong statement. I mean, I'd love to
Yeah.
see it. I mean, she's looked great. She's done an amazing job. She's just going to have, a difficult path on her half bracket. The half bracket is, you're going to have the number one seed to be in, then you're going to have Rabina, who dominated her, Turkey, who I'm telling you is very good and dropped down a weight. So it's, she's gonna if she medals on that side of the bracket, it's going to be a very strong statement. I certainly think she can, but there's very little room for error. With that draw. But again, this is a way to parity. I think there's 5 different people that can make 5 to 7 people that could probably make the finals.
57 kilograms. Helen Maroulis is back. Shame on me for thinking she may have thought about retiring after the Olympics. She is the American GOAT, 2016 Olympic gold medalist, 2-time Olympic bronze, 3-time world champion. She's back again for another crack at this. At her last ranking series tournament, she looked better than ever, and actually better since the 2017 World Championships, where she dominated her way through. Will turn 34 on September 19th. Looking through the entries, I think it's Helen's to win. I don't see any reason Helen Maroulis shouldn't be on the top spot when we're done with this and doing our recap. Scott, what do you think?
Yeah, and I'm pretty honest about these predictions and stuff. I don't just say somebody's from the U.S. or it's just Helen, but Helen looked better than she ever has since 2017. This is her way to win. It's there's this experienced people with some accolades, but to me, the biggest challenge will be on the other side of the bracket is Kexon Hong, who took a bronze at the Olympics and was beating the Cheetah and then lost that match. But Hong has had some bad losses. She's had tournaments 23. She lost to actually Kalamalaglu, the one who I said is at 55 is very good. She's had some up and down performances. She is a high volume shooter, but sometimes gets a little too aggressive and pushes in, gets thrown like Akobia did once, launched her off a shot. But Helen is very technical and can handle high volume shooters. She's very hard to shoot on. She's got very good defense. On paper, I guess the 8 seed Alieva is very solid, been around. U23 world champ, European bronze medalist. But, Jakara almost blew matched her. Jakara was up by 5 or 7 and then got close at the end. Alieva likes to throw, but Helen should be able to handle her. And it's the same thing with Kurchina from, Belarus, UWW. She's Olympic silver medalist, but tends to normally pin people. She's a pinner. She gets big moves. And Helen's just very tactical and has looked great. So, I think the weight's relatively thin. Vinnik from Ukraine, who's not going to be seeded, is very solid. She's a 2-time U23 world champion. But again, I think Helen just can tactically beat her. And then Japan is Takuhara, who did a good job to make the team, beat some good names. She beat Sainajo. Takuhara wrestles the most unorthodox Japanese style. She has a nasty, nasty, nasty head pinch. And likes to throw and go upper body. But again, Helen is just very experienced and knows how to deal with that kind of stuff and doesn't normally put herself in positions to get launched. So I'm expecting Helen to control this weight class and win this weight class.
After you saying all that, Scott, I got to keep it really short. I don't know how Helen loses this, honestly. And with Japan's representative, Takahura, obviously great wrestler, but I just don't see anyone at this weight beating Helen. I just don't see it. I don't know how it's possible, and I think that this is, again, Helen's the type of wrestler, she's not going to stay in this if she doesn't have that belief of okay, I'm going to continue to chase world gold and do all this. And so I have a lot of confidence in Helen. Like you said, even with that head pinch, even if that's, Japan's best move, how does Helen Maroulis get caught in that? She's so sound, so aware. At 34 years of age, being in this game for so long, there's certain positions that you don't get caught in, that you don't even expose yourself to, right? Even if this person is so good at that, I don't see how Helen ends up in that position to begin with. So, yeah, like I said, I'll keep it short. Helen Maroulis world champ. I don't see it going any other way at this weight class with the depth, with anything else. So
59 kilograms. Is it possible that a world weight is tougher than the Olympic weight below it? 59 kilograms. When you look through it, it is a monster weight class. Jakara Winchester is our U.S. rep. She is a returning world champion, won that world title in 2019, is known for making medal matches, didn't fare well the last time she was at 59 kilograms. But I think if Jakara can be on point, if she can get to her offense, she has a diverse range of offense, she can get through this, but I think it's going to be tougher said than done. Scott, this is your weight. You know this intimately well. What are Jakara's chances to win a medal and possibly make a world title run?
I think it's up to Jakara. I think if she's in the right frame of mind, has a, even though it's quote up weights for her, sometimes she still has to cut at the last minute. I think if she manages her weight right, she's in the right headspace, gets pulled in, she's got a good shot. Certainly the medal could win. I mean, I think the favorite in this weight class to me is the first senior world championship, but Onishi has looked very good. And again, I told you Michaela had wrestled her over in Japan, and at the same time was wrestling Sakurai and Matoki and Onishi, and she said this Onishi felt every bit as good as the other Olympic champions, from Japan around her. So just because it's a first world championship, don't think that she's not ready. And she is Onishi was by far the best wrestler at the U20 World Championships. If you watch that tournament, she just dominated in a way. And this is a funny weight class because it's very deep, but it's not like deep to the seas. Like the one seed Brugger has, only a, one senior world bronze medal. Bogner, who's seeded second, Mikhail is beaten. Beauregard from Canada is number 3. She's wrestled for world medals, but she's a 5-time Pan Am champ, I think, but never world medals. Del Nikova's done well at the younger ages, not world medal. So it's really the unseeded land. The 5 is Onishi, then Jakara, and then China's tough, and then you have another potential. You have North Korea. Hong is a silver. On only losing to Onishi at the Asians. And then you have. It's funny. The Vinnick's twin sister is up at 59. She used to wrestle 55, and evidently, what I've been told is she kind of had some injuries and wasn't able to really lift, and was always smaller than her twin sister, and now is filled out, and she dominated Yanyak, with a tech fall in a ranking series. So, to me, this is not going to be remotely chalk to the seeds. It's going to be unseeded wrestlers and those middle wrestlers. And, can Jakara win? Yes. If she's on, she can win. She can medal. And, she cannot if she's not. It's a very deep weight class. And, it'll be interesting. I think the favorites, to me, Onishi, just from what I've seen recently in form, is the favorite in this way.
yeah, that's great, Scott. I think for me, the number 7 seed, Jamoka from Nigeria, is that kind of dark horse that let's see what happens. Very, very gritty, very aggressive in the tie-up. However, Jakara is so patient. I mean, probably one of the most patient American athletes that we have. America's known for high-paced, high action, all this. Jakara likes to keep it calm, hands down by her legs, defensive, very patient, very disciplined. I don't see how Jakara doesn't medal at this weight. I don't. I mean, like you said, Scott, it is deep, but in kind of the most strangest ways, and not by the seeding, but by all else that is happening by it. So I feel good about her going into this, and a lot of these lightweights are so good in their hand fight, and they're kind of chaotic. They bring this sort of chaotic aggression to the match, and Jakar is one of those athletes that knows how to deal with it. And if we get 2019, world champ Jakara to come to, or 2018 to come to the mats, then I think she can repeat that. But for sure, I think that we're gonna get a medal out of Jakara here. But like you said, Scott, Jakara has to want it. She has to show up, and if she does, without a doubt, we'll get a medal out of her.
62 kilograms is interesting. We have a U.S. rep for the first time that is not Kayla Miracle. Duga Wachukwu will represent the United States at 62 kilograms. Also have Esther Kolawali at 62 kilograms, which is interesting because she wrestles at William Penn. She's from Nigeria. Adugo wrestled at William Penn. She's from Nigeria and then immigrated to the United States. But the talk of 62 kilograms has to be from Japan. You have the returning Olympic gold medalist in Sakura Motoki. She has to be the favorite. Reese, as you look at this, you know this weight class intimately. What do you think is going to happen here?
Yeah, Sakura is absolutely the favorite, but she's also beatable. And we saw that at the Olympics, even though she won it, with her very close match with Grace Bullen. She was winning, got into that funny little exchange, ended up pinning Grace. Um, this is a deep weight class. This and 65 are probably the deepest weight class, at least I have. Maybe it's because I know it the best. But she she's absolutely beatable. And I think that if Adugo can do what she did with Kayla, actually, because of the way that she tied her up, I actually wrestled Adugo at the senior world team camp we had out here in Iowa. She's got a great 2-on-1. I mean, it's really good and it really ties into her double leg, right? Because if you get a 2-on-1, typically the person in the 2-on-1 is trying to flee, right? And so once you get that fleeing or trying to get out of the hold, that creates your double leg, that creates your attack. So I really think that we're going to see that that's what Aduga's going to do. I think that's what she needs to do, especially with Japan, tying her up. And the fact that she has a dominant tie, like a 2-on-1, that sets her up really well for Japan. Now, we don't know if that matchup is even going to happen, at least in the later brackets, because Aduga is going to have to get drawn in. She's not seeded. We have Sakura, who is the number one seed, so we'll see where Aduga ends up getting drawn in. But like you said, Esther, her and Esther were never teammates, but Esther going to William Penn, graduating from there, wrestling. So there's a connection, but not really, just because they were never teammates. We don't really know the wrestling background and style. I mean, I'm sure they wrestle pretty similarly, both having the origins from being from Nigeria. You also have Dudova from Bulgaria. Adugo has a win over her. She dominated her in the ranking series. I don't really see her posing that much of a threat against Adugo, at least compared to last time they wrestled. You have Ana Godunez, who those sisters are really good. They're really good. They're patient. They're dominant. They're strong. They're fast. So that is going to be another challenge if Adugo does end up in that side of the bracket. I think I just want to see Adugo coming in mentally sharp. As a lot of these USA girls, you have to have that belief in you. You have to want to win. This is a deep weight class. I believe in my heart Adugo can medal. It's going to be very difficult to win. I think she has the capabilities to do it, but it's going to have to be a very good day for Adugo to win this. But Sakura, being an Olympic champ, she's very beatable, like I said. In that semifinal match with Grace Bullen, she was losing, was able to catch her at the end. So she's beatable, but Adugo's going to have a really good, because it's going to have a really good 2 days of wrestling to make this happen.
Yeah, that's good. Good point. I mean, I think the biggest thing at 62 is that there's probably six people that can win the tournament. Maybe not six or four. I mean, Dudova is a world champion. She's a three seed. Porif George Orkan, I'll say, I'm butchering the name, from Mongolia, a world champ who teched she's a three-time Eurasian champ. But if people remember, in 2016, I think it was, she wrestled Icho and teched her, and it wasn't a lace. She just kind of beat her up at the Eurasian, and then won the Worlds. I think failed a test, was out for a couple of years, but came back and took fifth in the Olympics. She lost to Kolodenko from Ukraine, as a two-time Olympic medalist, 8-7. So she's right there. Yeah, Motoki is beatable. The funny thing is Motoki is an Olympic champ, but has not won a world title yet. But she's very solid. She absolutely is beatable. And you look at her matches, if you watch the matches, but she's very solid. Godinez is probably one of the best female wrestlers of the last 5 years that has not won a world medal, I would say. She's contended. She's beaten many of them. And then to me, it's really like you could hit the potential. You have China is unseeded as a 2023 world bronze, Lili, and then, North Korea. It's funny, North Korea, we looked up, the name's Kim, which is by far, half of the last names in North Korea are Kim, and the others, Park, Chun, or, it's three names pretty much. But this Kim, there's nothing on her, so we don't know. And then to me, the landmine of landmines is Bonder from Ukraine. She is just, we first saw her at the World Cup. She was wrestling senior stuff, looked very tough and beat some good people. But, she won U23 gold. She beat Macy pretty solidly in the finals of that tournament, very dominantly, actually. Then at World, she didn't play. She lost, I think it was to Bulin in the first round, or somebody else really good that then lost. she's just very solid and really on a sharp trajectory. So, in my opinion, the favorites for this tournament, are Bonder and Matoki. Just in my head, and Mongolia actually. And then here's the deal with my opinion with the Dugo. I think a Dugo can beat any person in this bracket. The question is, can she beat three of them in a row? And that's what she'll have to prove to me. She's improved a lot. Or Arsenal, when she beat Dudova, and I talked about this last time when she was losing, got a takedown and gutted her when she went left and then jumped back over the right. Her parterre game's gotten a lot better. She's, improving Arsenal on her feet, but there are times she can get shut down on her feet. She likes to double from space or tries to tie up, and people have shut her down, but she's a feel that people aren't used to. She's exceptionally athletic and explosive, but her technique is getting better. Her tactics are getting better. The issue is, can she wrestle three, of her best matches in a row, which is what she's going to need to kind of win/contend for a title. She absolutely can beat anybody. Perhaps she's. I think she absolutely could be ready and have a breakout performance. But this is just a deep weight class, and you are not backdooring a medal. You're going to have to wrestle in this weight to medal.
I think also I forgot to mention Veronika Ivanova from UWW team. She's out of Ossetia. She's strong. I think she's one of the biggest dark horses in the entire tournament. I think she's going to present a lot of challenges. I don't know if she's in the world championship contender, right? Like to win the gold medal. She's going to present a lot of problems depending on where she gets drawn into. And if Adugo has to wrestle her early, she's going to have to be prepared for a long 6 minutes. Because like I said, Veronica wrestles very, very hard. She's a very strong wrestler, so I wanted to point her out, throw her in there because she's definitely going to be in the mix, especially depending on where she gets drawn into. So yeah, we'll see, and it's tough because Dugo's going to be getting drawn into, and so we're gonna have to really wait and see where she gets drawn to see. Like you said, Scott, she's gonna have to be ready to wrestle three very hard matches. So.
65 kilograms. You mentioned this, Reese. This is maybe the toughest weight class top to bottom. It's the weight class I'm looking forward to watching the most just because of the participants and how unique they are. Mia Morikawa is the top seed. She has great accolades, gold at the 2022 World Championships. Macy Kilty, who just wins medals across the board. She's a silver medalist at the 2023 Worlds, bronze medal at the 2024 Worlds. And then you have Ringasi, has that unique style. She's so funky. She's had the battles with Grace Boulin, who you mentioned. And then you go on down the line. I'm excited about this, probably for the entertainment. What are you excited about to watch 65 kilograms?
Pretty much everything, but yeah, like you said, especially Macy's got a couple get backs in this bracket, right? One, Ringachi, she lost to, I think, 2 years ago. Had a really, really close match with her. She was starting to come back, started to tire Ringachi out, but she was still able to hang on. Grace Boland, very interesting match. They were going back and forth, and Grace was able to just grab that head, which she seems to do in a lot of matches. She's chasing people's heads, especially in these like scrambles. Maybe she tries to play possum, however you want to call it. Um, that match could happen as soon as the quarterfinals, right? As if the seedings hold up, and everything goes to plan. That could happen as soon as the quarterfinals. So I'm looking forward to Macy getting that match back. I think that she will. I think that she is more technically sound. I think she's smarter. I don't think that she's going to make the same mistakes or be as vulnerable as she was in that ranking tournament when she faces Grace. So I think that's going to be a completely different match. Macy's just gritty, She doesn't really wrestle with emotions. She just has one mode, and that's to go hard for 6 minutes. The past 2 weeks, I wrestled her every single day in practice, and it never changes, whether we're drilling, sparring, playing, going live. Macy knows one mode, and that's to go hard and get better, and it doesn't change when she goes into competition. 6 minutes, wrestle as hard as you can, take a break, go back onto the mat, wrestle another 6 minutes as hard as you can. And not a lot of people, especially, these foreigners, the internationals, can keep up with that. They start to hold their knee, hold their shoulder, try to get as much time as possible. And so I think as long as Macy can get those leads early, they won't be able to play back on that, right? That's what happened with Ringachi in their first matchup. Macy started to climb back, and there was a lot of weird breaks and kind of breaking the momentum that Macy had going. She's got to get on top early so that they don't have a chance to do that. If they want to call break, if they want to call time, it doesn't matter because Macy's already leading. So I feel very confident in this. Macy's hardest competition is going to be Miwa, the world champion from Japan. And again, I think she needs to stay patient. Macy likes to shoot. She likes to be aggressive. We need to see some patience out of her early on in that Japan match because those girls are patient, and they like to get to those outside singles hand fights. So that's going to be Macy's biggest thing, at least with Japan, is being patient and learning when to push the pace and when to hold center, stay in good position. Man, this is a really deep weight class. You also have the unseeded Alania Kasabayev. She lost to the 62 kilogram representative, Veronica, in a very close match. So I just love this. I think this is going to be a great bracket. I'm very confident in Macy. Her hardest competition is going to be Miwa, and 100% she's going to medal at this weight. And she does all the right things. She's going to be world champ.
This is a really deep weight class. 65 has never been this deep. You had, Bullen moving up. You have Ngasi, Macy. This is tough, but to me, I think first of all, Macy's on the other side if the seeds, stay the same. Um, I think Macy can beat me. She lost to her in 2019 in Estonia and Tallinn in the Junior World Finals on a quirky technical running away, fleeing violation. But Morikawa doesn't wrestle those explosive, crazy matches. Those are the ones that give her problems. So to me, her draw is good because you have, me was on the side with Kolodenko, who's very tough and funky and long and a two-time Olympic medalist, and Ringasi's on the same side as me. So Macy's going to have to deal with Grace Bullen, in the quarters if the seeds hold, who we know she can go with her. That match is crazy. But the one problem is Macy's kind of the people that give Macy problems are chaotic matches. Macy likes ordered matches that are in control. And Bullen, it's kind of chaos. So she's got to keep the match. It hurts. She can't get too aggressive too early and shoot herself out of the match and get caught on a leg and lift it or in funk. She wants the match to be slow and contained. I think if she gets through Bullen, she'll be in good shape. I like that some of the people, Rengasi's just weird and funky. And, if you're on her leg, she's just long, and Kolodenko as well. So I like her draw a lot. I think, the hardest match should be Bullen, but we know Macy can go with her. And clearly there's going to be some game planning. Then the other, wild card is, I don't know where Qi Zhang is from China. She's a world champ at 59 kilos, up at 65. So, who knows? She's got a great double, great gut wrench. I don't know if she's filled out at this weight. I don't know, but I would not. I'd keep an eye on her, and she's a potential, landmine in the bracket. But I think this is a deep weight. I do not. I don't think Macy's gonna. She makes a fun. I don't think she'll hit Morikawa. I think one of the others. I think either. Um, Ringasi or Kolodenko is going to take out Morikawa. Morikawa is very steady, one-time world champ, but takes losses, and has some age group world titles as well. But this is just a deep weight, and I'd be very surprised if we go chalk.
I also want to mention with Macy what consistency she has. 7 age level and senior world medals. 2 of those are senior world medals. She's a cadet world champion, but I think she gets maybe underappreciated a little bit because there's some other stars. But look at her body of work. It's pretty incredible what she's done.
She's just so consistent. She's a professional. She prepares. Her mental game is, her preparation and training is amazing, and Reese can speak to that. And her mental game, she's just very focused and she's prepared for every match.
Exactly, consistency. And I realized that, yeah, like training with her, whether it's coming to practice after practice, like I watch Macy. I watch her. I learn from her. She is the best. She's won all these medals across the board. So why would I not look at her and look at what she's done, And it does come down to that. And it's like she knows when to maybe smile, have fun, but it's like as soon as we go, slap hands. I mean, I've never seen someone change faces so quickly, She knows when to flip the switch. She knows when to get serious. And her preparation is as professional as it gets. She knows what she needs, and drilling with her, the coaches call out a driller, say, okay, it's on your own, do this. Immediately, she knows what she's going to do. She knows what she needs to work on. And that's just professionalism. So, like you said, consistency, I think, comes from that professionalism that she's built up over these years. So she knows how to get it done. She knows how to at least medal. And I really think that this is her year to get it done. But at least she's going to medal at this weight class, I think 100%. But I really believe that this is her year to get it done in this weight class.
68 kilograms is interesting because we have the returning Olympic gold medalist is out. Amit Elor did not participate in Final X, so she was going to be at 72 kilograms, but she cut down after winning 2 world championships at 72. So she was at 68 last year. Now we have Kennedy Blades. If someone were to say create two superheroes that are the exact opposite, it would be Amit Elor and Kennedy Blades as far as how they approach wrestling. You have Amit Elor digs the underhooks, not very flashy, as strong as can be. And then you have Kennedy Blades, who's long and lean and shoots from space and has all the great tools that they have. But as you look at 68 kilos, I don't think there's any question that Kennedy Blades is the class of the field. She has to go and prove it. But as you look at this, Reese, and you know Kennedy, what does she have to do to be able to get that top spot and get a gold medal?
Kennedy has to be mentally sound. From uh, living with her, training with her, whatever it is, she has to be mentally prepared. She has to, if her neck hurts, if her shoulders, whatever, doesn't matter. You have to go out and wrestle the exact same every single time, and that's to go and dominate. That's to be offensive. It's like you can't, for Kennedy, don't let the outside noise, don't let how your body feels determine how you're going to perform. Kennedy has to do what Kennedy knows how to do. If she just focuses on herself, she's unstoppable. I think that she's unbeatable, you know? And obviously, you can say that across the board for all wrestlers, but me knowing her personally and learning about her, like, Kennedy has to focus on her wrestling, her offense, and not worry about how she feels, what she's thinking, what other people feel, right? Don't worry about being flashy. Don't worry about this. That suplex at the Olympic Games came naturally. It didn't come from her thinking, I want to suplex someone at the Olympics and blow up on that. That's not how that came to be. She did that because that's what she knows how to do. The biggest thing, the biggest jump I've seen in Kenny Blades' wrestling is her parterre, her leg lace, her gut run. She's now scoring on there, whereas before she was just happy and content with her up, with the standing, with the taking down, which is fine. But now she scored points on top. Now she knows how to finish matches on top, and that's going to be huge in these tougher matches when she faces these girls that are just trying to hold position, just trying to be defensive against her. She needs to score points on top. That's how she's going to break apart these matches and really start to dominate.
Yeah, Reese, I agree with you. I mean, I really think it's up to, where Kennedy Blades is in her head. If we get the A version of game on, mentally focused, not thinking about anything but winning Kennedy Blades, this is her to win. She's in a great, if you look at the draws, just a great spot as the 4 seed. Great, because Tucson, who's the one, she lost, not taking anything away from, Brooklyn, but, Brooklyn took her out in the ranking series, and she's good. She's very beatable. Kennedy on paper is better than her. Kyrgyzstan, the 2 is very tough, and as is, North Korea 3, but they're on the other side. And then the 6 is on their side too. Zelenik from Romania is very long and very difficult and very good as well. So to me, the potential landmines in the weight are Gia Long, who's a world champ at 65, went up, and Ami Ishii is a world champ at 72. So it's very infrequent that you have 2 world champs that are, coming up and down into the weight in the middle. And then you have, the existing talent. So, and then you have Kenny Blades, an Olympic silver medalist, is coming down 2 weight classes. So I think it's a solid, interesting weight. I think this is absolutely Blades' weight if she wrestles the way we know she can. But it's a deep weight. And I do not think the 1 seed Tucson is going to win, or maybe she may not even medal, in my opinion. I just think there's a lot of unseeded talent and some talented people that have switched weight classes that have not been there. So expecting good things out of Kenny Blades.
72 kilograms, we have Alex Glade, who is in her first senior world championships. If you go back, and we've talked about this, 2018, she won a U23 world bronze and had a dramatic last second win to get that bronze medal, was down 5-0, then got a blast double. So she has that capability. She has the explosive power. She can do it. And looking at this weight class, a lot of times you don't know what you're going to get because it's smashed between 68 and 76. It's a world weight, not an Olympic weight. It's been Amit Elor's at the world level. since 2022. She is not in the weight class, so maybe more people filtered into it. So when I looked through it, it looked like there was some depth here that has been missing possibly in the past. But I thought Glade had a good shot going in until I really dove into it, and I think it's going to be tougher than anticipated at 72 kilograms. Reese, you know this weight class as well. What do you think going into this?
At first glance, I'm like, okay, this is open. This is great. But there is some depth to it. Just because these names might not be as familiar to us as others, because yeah, a meet has held this, and maybe some people have scattered from this before, but are now filtering in with the absence of a meet. With that being said, I still feel strongly about Glade. I feel like she has, you know, I think that explosive style always presents challenges to the world championship, to the people who compete in the world championship, because they're very used to, with the Asian style, with the European style. They like to stay close to each other. They like to grab on, they like to hold you and feel that they're in control. Whereas Gladi doesn't allow that. She doesn't allow you to feel in control. She doesn't allow that. She likes to keep her space and shoot her double leg. Now, she is still very good from the ties. Obviously, having that double is where she wants to get to. She's very compact for the weight, whether it's with her height or whatever you want to call it. She's very compact. And like I said previously, when we were talking about her versus a meat, she's able to stay really small. And so it's hard to get to her wrists. It's hard to get to her elbows. It's hard to take a 2-on-1 or collar tie or whatever it is, like most of these girls want to get to. So I think that that's another advantage for Glade, and she's going to have to use that to stay compact. And as these girls are reaching, trying to get to her, move, 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 blast double. That's what I'm looking for Glade, and I think that it's going to be there for her. And this is a relatively deep weight, maybe not through names, but through skill. And I think that Glade will bring a medal home at this, but yeah, we're just gonna have to wait to see. Like you said, Kyle, I thought that this was wide open. You dive into it a little bit more, and it's like, okay, it's a little bit more competitive than you might think at first glance.
This is you talk about somebody like waiting. So the number one seed from Kazakhstan, Berkberganova, she's basically medaled and keeps losing, in the final semi. She's a silver, bronze, silver, silver. So she's been there. She's very consistent. So I'm expecting her probably, to make the finals. I think it's one of these weights where, the number one seed is kind of right now on paper the number one. I think the other names that you got to keep an eye on, though, if you're her, you don't want to have Misako Ferrucci as the 8 seed to hit in the quarters, who's won world titles at cadet, junior, U23, and senior. She's had some injuries. She's been inconsistent. Lately you have not seen the best version of Misako Ferrucci, and I don't know where she is. So if she's healthy and on point, she's as good as anybody in the weight class. I just don't know where she is. The other one, Belinska from Ukraine, the 5 seed, just won the Europeans. So she's going to be very solid. She always is. She had a great World Cup when you were in Coraville and won some big matches for Ukraine when they won the team title. And then, in terms of Glaudet, I think she can give people trouble. And, to your point, Reese, her style is different. She's very explosive. She's quick. She can be kind of small and hard to control. And, this is her time. She didn't have to wrestle in Final X. I'm not taking anything away from her. You can only wrestle in front of you, but she didn't. She beat, a Skylar Grote, who has had a very solid year, in the Open. So, if you're Glaudet, this is your time. You're on this team. The weight is solid, but nobody in this weight class is unbeatable. And I think if she just believes in herself and opens up, she's got to open up and wrestle aggressive and not shut down, like really kind of take it to people. And her style can be difficult. So, you never know. The way things work out are funny. I definitely think there's some very consistent performers here that, you'd expect to be competing for medals. But I think, other than perhaps that, the 1 seed who I think I'd be very surprised if she does not medal. Other than that, it's pretty wide open to me. Leah China is very tough. I think one of the Asians, but it's pretty open.
76 kilograms. I'm so high on Kylie Welker. I think she is the best wrestler in the field. She'll have to prove it. Don't like that she's not seeded. Reese alluded to that earlier. Sometimes it's goofy on why certain wrestlers get seeded and don't. It's a ranking series system. So I don't like that she's going to get randomly drawn in. We know she can beat a lot of these high-level wrestlers. She beat Riasco at the Pan American Championship. So we know she can go with the best. Riasco teched Adeline Gray in about a minute 13, I think, at the 2024 Pan Am Championship. So that just shows you the level. The Pan Am countries are really good at this weight class, and I just hope that Kylie Welker, who is known for maybe being a slow starter, if she gets one of those tough matches early, I hope she's ready to go and has that mindset that that first match could be a world championship caliber type of match.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, with the rankings, you have a returning world medalist, not seeded, not ranked. So that's very difficult. This is also a deep weight class. This has been it's interesting. 76 has been one of the deepest weight classes all across the board for a couple of years now. You don't have Yuka Kagami, right, the returning Olympic champion here from Japan, but man, Marin from Cuba, Medit from Kyrgyzstan. The fact that Kylie's not seeded and can get one of these girls first round, it's tough. And like you said, being a slow starter, Kylie has to be ready off of the first bout. She's gonna have, I want to say almost regardless, a very tough quarterfinal bout. She's a very high percent chance of having a tough quarterfinal bout. And a lot of these girls, I mean, Medit and Marine gave Kendi Blades at the Olympics very tough matches. They're like brick walls. They were very hard to score on. Kendi had to spend a lot of energy to get points on them, and they were 6-minute battles that Kendi had with these two wrestlers at the Olympics. So Kai's gonna have to be ready for that. And I think it's gonna be similar kind of to wrestling someone like Diamond, how she did at Final X. She's gonna have to move them. She's gonna have to be ready to, I don't know, maybe even be down, maybe be ready to face adversity. And adversity could be in her being down, her being up, her just being having to find it deep in herself to go get points late in the match. It could be a lot of things. But Kylie's gonna have to be mentally strong to win this bracket because it is deep and it's full of a lot of strong 76 kilogram wrestlers. These are big, big women at these weights, and they're very hard to move. Kylie's snatch really holds an advantage to her because she doesn't have to be worried at the highest weight getting caught under these girls. She can snatch a leg up really quick. And I think with her not having wrestled all of these girls and these girls having to kind of feel this for the first time, that quick little snatch, that speed. You don't see a whole lot of speed here at 76. So that's going to be an advantage. Kai's going to have to use her speed and that little snatch single that she likes to do that she's very, very good at to her advantage. She needs to score on top as well. She needs to get up. If she takes down, you got to get a 4-0 on a lot of these girls, because then if they want to hold, if they want to try to push you, there's not a lot they can do. Maybe they can get, a passive point or whatever. It's not going to make changes in the match. So this is a deep weight. It's hard with her being unseated, but that just means, like you said, Kyle, she has to be ready to start fast, start strong from the first match, and continuing on forward in the tournament.
Yeah, this is a solid weight, and it's kind of a changing of the guard to some extent. I mean, Kagami's not wrestling, but she's a one-time world champ. It's probably Japan's weakest weight class, to be honest with you. Yamamoto really is the only one that's not won at least an age group or senior world title in their lineup. But you lost like some of that. It's a changing of the guard where you don't have May from Estonia, Wee from Canada, Adeline Gray from the U.S. This is like a new crop, but that crop, it's funny. It's a Pan-American crop. If you look at Marine from Cuba is very good. Riasco from Ecuador is very explosive. She's got a great double. She can score. Med is very consistent from Kyrgyzstan, but she's beatable to me. I think if Welker wrestles the way she can, believes in herself, and is ready early, she can beat anybody and win the weight class. I mean, the biggest thing is, you talk about, well, she's unseeded. Well, she is the bad draw. Like if you're a top seed, you don't want to get Welker in the first round either. She's the bad draw, and she can beat any of these athletes. There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, so if she just got to be ready to go, and she's got to open up early. Marie from Cuba is very good. She's very strong. Like you said, she's big. She's strong. She has little lapses in her match. She beat Blades pretty badly in a ranking in the Grand Prix of Spain. Then lost to her. But I think Kylie, if we see the best version of her, she can 100% win this weight class, but she's got to be ready to go. And, to me, the toughest one, Kyrgyzstan's consistent. To me, it's really Ecuador is kind of the one that stylistically wrestles the closest probably to Kylie in terms of athleticism. Marine it doesn't do a lot and gets tired. So I think if, Kylie's ready, I'm expecting good things for her. And, I really would be surprised if she doesn't medal.
Overall, let's look at this at a 10,000 foot view. It's easy to fall in love with our team, which I am. I love our U.S. team and what they can do. A lot of it we are predicting what might happen because we don't know who the first round matchups will be. But when you go into this, you have to be gritty. You're going to have to be tough. You're going to have to go through adversity, and you have to have some luck involved because whoever may or may not beat you will have to pull you back in. So there's just a lot at play right here. I think the number one thing is Helen's got to lead the way. She's the veteran in this group. She's going to be 34 years old. We know what she can do. I think she establishing herself and putting on a good performance, I think that's going to lead the way for the United States. Scott, will end with you, and then Reese, your final thoughts.
I think, this is a kind of different team. We have some veterans, some younger athletes. Japan to me is a dominant favorite. I'm not handing it to them, but they have a pretty solid team on paper. The other teams, Ukraine is a very solid team. China does, North Korea with some gaps. The U.S. team is good. I think it's if we need as a team, like you're saying, the leadership from Helen. We need leadership from Jakar. We have to get a good performance, and then and Macy, the veterans. But I think then we kind of just got to get the mojo feeding on each other and get performances from all these younger athletes, whether it's Jimenez, Crystal Rodriguez, they can medal. We need, but for us to take second / compete for a team title, it's going to have to click in all cylinders. And I think it's going to be that kind of tournament. Either we're going to be able to feed off each other, get the mojo, and really have a great tournament, or if we start to struggle and we don't, I think you can feed in a negative way. So I think, the way the team works together and feeds off each other is going to be really important to see how we do.
Yeah, I agree. And this is not the strongest Japan team we've seen, right? So it shouldn't be like we have to go and try to take down Goliath or something, right? This is so possible for us to win this team title. Like you said, Helen has to go out there and lead the way. These seniors, these girls that have been there, done that. I know from our first year at Iowa in the national championships, that was huge for us as momentum. When you're sitting backstage and you have all these lightweights go out, and whether it's in the semifinals or whatever, you're hearing how they're doing, you're seeing how they're doing, you're drawn to that. They're winning, they're dominating. Someone upsets someone from another team. You feed off of that. It's uncontrollable. You just do. You feed off that, right? And so that is what Helen and these girls that compete on the first day, the ones that are the first to step out on the mat, they have to take charge with that. Even if they've never been there, they've never been on this stage before, they have to take it upon themselves to go out there and to put on a show and to get the momentum going early. It is huge. This is an individual sport, but when we're talking team title, momentum, drive, these girls have to be one with the team. Even if they've never competed on the same team before, they have to be one. They are Team USA no matter where they are from, and they have to compete like it, like they've known each other their whole lives, and really lean on each other and grow. And like I said, from experience, the first group, Helen, Jakara, Macy, all those girls, they're going to be very important to lead the way to this team title, to get the momentum going and to really uplift these girls to a team title.
Yeah, and if you look at the seeds and really kind of know a lot of these athletes from the different countries across the weight classes, to me, we have some people that are not seeded, and again, they're all like, for somebody to say, Jakara is not seeded. Well, good luck. Do you want her first round? I would, wouldn't, or Welker. But the ones that are not even seeded high, I like our draws. I like our location. When you look in the context of the brackets, we have ways that we can, advance, and some of the other people are going to hit each other. So I think we have as good a setup as we could have hoped for based on, where we were, quote, ranked or not ranked. So I like the setup and the draws. And, my concluding thing is, Reese, once again, thanks for coming on. It's fun to have you. I appreciate the analysis and the perspective. And it's always fun to have somebody on the inside that's wrestling, a lot of these ladies that can share that perspective with us.